Well, welcome everybody to the Artist Next Level podcast. My name is Drew Harris, and I have a wonderful guest here. Some of you might know, some of you might not, but this is the lovely Dr. Yanina Gomez. And she and I are going to talk about things such as imposter syndromes, comparing our work to others, comparing our art careers to others. We're going to have lots to talk about today. Why don't we go right into it?
My name is Sergio Gomez. I'm an artist, curator, gallery owner, author, and co-founder of the Art Next Level program. And my goal with this channel is to make marketing and art business easy so that you can grow your art career, find new opportunities, sell more art, and spend more time creating in the studio. So if you like that, make sure you click on the subscribe button and click on the little bell so that you receive notifications of our future videos.
Hello, Dr. Yanina. How are you today?
Drew. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. It looks like a nice sunny day in Florida.
It is. It's one of those nice, sunny, and good temperature days.
And you have brought the color to the screen and to the topic today. And I'm really excited about talking to you about this. This is something that is, of course, in your book, yours and Sergio's book.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of the subjects. It's chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
And we, where you have really delved deeply into this idea of, the comparisons, the imposter, feeling like an imposter. And I think that this is a really important thing to talk about today, because a lot of us do feel that imposter syndrome, even after perhaps a career, as long as mine, maybe it's 35 or 40 years, and careers that are just starting. We're comparing all the time. Right. And always feeling like we're not good enough. We're not putting are we lying to our public? Like, are we trying to present ourselves in one form, but deep down inside, are we feeling insecure? And this is a great opportunity to get your take on it. So, Dr. Yanina, you are a psychologist.
Yes.
You've been dealing with many facets of the psychological world, including working with artists with the Art Next Level group, working with Sergio, of course, and having your own practice. You've got a lot of information, and you are invaluable to talk to. So I'm going to, open the floor to you and tell us a little bit more about this imposter syndrome, or the comparisons, or the chapter 6 in the book.
Chapter 6. Yeah, chapter 6, it was very interesting to write. Is the whole idea, as you said, the whole idea of whether or not we trust ourselves, and how whether we trust ourselves or not will determine the decisions we make. And in the artist circumstances, it's the whole idea of when you trust yourself, right, things move forward. And you dare to make tougher decisions. You put yourself in situations where you're going to grow, that you're going to get out of that comfort zone, and you're going to put yourself in circumstances where you would not put yourself otherwise when you don't trust yourself. But then what happens is that when we don't trust ourselves, then we start doubting ourselves. Right? We start doubting our abilities. We start doubting the possibility that you can become a successful artist, that you can build your own art career. So in other words, trust is so important. And depending on where you are when it comes to self-trust, it will determine whether or not you're going to grow as an artist, or you're just going to reach that wall, reach that plateau stage. So there's a lot of different things after working, we've been working with artists for quite a long time. But when it comes to when it comes to self-trust, those are the two areas that we have seen the most in artists. The whole idea of that phenomenon, the imposter phenomenon, right? That doubting, having the ability to succeed, having the training, having all that it takes to be an artist, but yet right here in your mind, in your brain, you don't believe it. or you think that other people are going to start judging you and start doubting that you really are an artist, right?
Right.
And also the comparisons that we might unpack a little later. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. These, we're dealing with artists that are new artists, like the emerging artists. We're mid-career artists, senior artists, and I'm really curious whether this imposter syndrome is a cyclical thing, or it could be, with the markets, how markets change. Do we ourselves then fall into this sort of pattern of, being confident, presenting our work when the market changes, or we get slow, or we have a bad show? Is it something that we sink back into? We naturally sink back into this sort of self-sabotage and imposter kind of feeling. Have you seen this with artists or working with artists?
Yes, and it happens. But again, it goes back to, there's two different ways to approach that. There is the way that you would just allow those thoughts to take over, right, and rule your decision making, or you're like, you know what, I've been here before, done this. I've fallen into this tendency before. I need to get myself out of it because I have done it before, right? But it's almost as you have to make a decision. When you start new, I would say that everyone who starts new in the field, any field, like I remember when I started as a psychologist, my first case by myself without my mentors, without just that I have to make a decision for this child's life, which I remember very well, quite severe, and it happened to be a quite severe case that I had to make a decision right there. I felt like, I've been going to school for so many years. I have all this training. I have done all these practicums, all these internships. I have done all these people, I have been in all these committees, whatever it is. And I have gained all this training, but yet here I was with my first case and I didn't know what to do. I was afraid that I was going to ruin this child's life because I wasn't making the right decision, because I was new to the field. So it happens. It happens. I had to make a decision, and I consulted with other fellow psychologists what their opinion was, and they happened to agree with me, which I was excited about. So that boosted my confidence when they agreed with my diagnosis. But we all go through this. It's something
even with all that training, you can still. You can have years of training and working with mentors and your mentoring staff and so forth. And then when that one clinical study comes in and you have to make a decision, you start to self-doubt.
Doubting myself.
So it happens in that world and happens in our world.
It happens in the art world. You're starting your career. You've been in school or you train yourself and you haven't been in the actual art world. You're going to feel intimidated. It goes back to that intimidation, right? But experience, and as you start approaching these fears as a challenge, to challenge yourself to grow, then that will make a difference. So when you are using these fears or these insecurities, and you make the actual decision, like, you know what, I'm not going to allow these insecurities, because at the end of the day, the imposter phenomenon is all about feeling insecure, right? When you wire your mindset to see those feelings as a challenge for self-growth, then that's when you're going to be able to get out of that.
But here, I think a lot of us, and as you have very clearly laid out there, we all suffer from this. And, in my career and in many of the friends that I know and colleagues have gone through this, a lot of them stay in that realm of self-sabotage because they don't have the tools to get themselves out of it. And I think that there is one thing about, you can say you're going to go on a diet, you're going to diet this week, you're going to only eat fresh vegetables, but you find yourself by Tuesday going, well, I'm not really sure how to do this because I really haven't, it sounds simple to get out of that, previous week to come into the new week. But we don't have the tools. What are the tools? What are some of the tools that you first advise when talking to artists through the coaching program that we offer, that you offer at the Art Next Level?
Right.
What are some of the tools that you would immediately say to someone that is, desperate to change, desperate to get out of that
That
that realm that they're
imposter
in?
cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Now,
Yeah.
what can they do? Because I know a lot of us get stuck in it, and if we don't have the help, some kind of guidance or some kind of way out of it, but proven
Yeah.
way out of it, we
Yeah.
will just stay in it. It's a
Yeah.
comfort zone
Yeah,
sometimes,
it is.
right?
It is right.
Yeah,
It is a
yeah,
comfort zone because and what happens is that if you stay in that comfort zone, then what goes next is victimizing yourself, and finding
absolutely.
excuses for not to get out of that comfort zone and growth. Because to get out of that comfort zone, you're going to be experiencing growing pains. You will not
Yes,
grow unless you go through growing pains. So the first,
right.
specifically for the imposter beliefs, is the first thing I always say is like, own the fact that you are the expert when it comes to your art. There's
Wonderful.
it's you have to own it. Not only it is a fact. No one knows your art better than you do. And that's one of the things that I notice with artists. It's like, that fear of like, what if people question my art? What if people question what I'm trying to convey here, my strategy, my technique, the message I'm sending? And honestly, no one can question your art because you're the creator.
Well,
It's
I've
always,
always said, I can make a Drew Harris painting that better than anyone, right?
yeah, there you go.
And that's
Exactly.
exactly it. You have to remind yourself that you really are the master of your own
Good,
craft,
exactly. And
right?
not only realize it, but you have to own it. Because you can
Yes,
say it, you can say, well, I created this, but you have to own it. The whole idea of like, there's no question that anyone can ask you that you will not be able to answer when it comes to your art. And
right.
so owning that you're the expert in your art and no one can make the art that you make, that's one thing that is very, very important to do. So that's one of the things that I
Absolutely.
always suggest, the whole idea of owning your art. Also realizing that it doesn't matter what you say about your art. It doesn't matter what you had, the way you explain your art. People are not going to question you because once
Right.
again, it's your art. So there's always that fear, like, oh, what if I don't know what to say? What if I don't know what to do? Well, when it comes to the time, you will know what to say and what to do if you prepare yourself, right? And that's one thing. Sometimes I have experience with artists is that they don't give themselves that opportunity to think about the art that they're making, to think about what is it that they're going to tell the world about it. There's a difference between when you're involved and it's here, right? That's why
Yes.
you're creating what you're creating.
Yeah.
But give yourself some time to put what is here into words.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you feel that this is the one fundamental first step that you need to take? As you say, ownership. You have to believe in it. You have to understand it. You have to be able to talk about it. And is that the first step to getting out of that comparison?
There are many strategies to do that, but what I have found this one to be very important is because what will combat the imposter belief is being an expert. If you're an expert in your field, if you're an expert in what you do, then you don't have imposter beliefs because you have already owned the title of being an expert.
Yes.
So, and you own the fact that you know what you're doing and you know the message you're trying to convey. So when you own that, when you label yourself as an expert, then there's no imposter beliefs.
Right.
Because the whole concept of being an imposter is feeling that you are not, that people are going to see you. They're not going to see you as the expert. They're going to see you like you are, what's the word?
But I have seen, I'll give you an example. I've seen colleagues from years ago that have become, globally recognized scientists, science-based thinking, experts in their field. And, on their business card and on their website, they look like, and they're, it's proven that they are one of the best in the world doing what they do. But to sit down over coffee with them is another story. And this has always intrigued me that we've seen many people like this where we say on the outside, you have this confidence, but on the inside, you're still trembling in fear. Being able to talk about it with a close friend, to sit down and say, I've got this conference to attend or to host, and I am the guest speaker or the keynote speaker, and yet there's going to be people that are better than me, and yet you are recognized as the leading, educator, of this, whatever your field is. And I've seen it so often. So it's across the board.
Right.
How do we get ourselves out of that and stay out of that sort of imposter feeling?
Yeah, and that's very interesting because the way I see it is there will always be someone better than you and someone that is less capable of you.
So what do you think is driving this imposter? Is it knowing that there is is there a sort of innate fear of knowing that there are better people than you?
Of course there is, because again, it's a threat. It's always a threat, and it's like
threat. Right.
In my case, what I would suggest in situations like that is the whole idea that you start from the get-go understanding and owning that there will always be someone better than you are, and there will be always someone that will question you, and there will be someone that it's completely out of your league, right? There are always extremes in this world. But the thing about the beauty about being who you are is that you bring that uniqueness that person doesn't have. You bring a different perspective that person doesn't have, a different way of
ingredient that they don't have.
Exactly. You have they have their spark, you have your spark. They have their interpretation, you have your interpretation. They have their perception, you have yours. And on this, everywhere you go, I mean, it happens to me too when I'm with other psychologists that they probably have more experience than I do. They probably have done amazing research that I haven't not done. Well, my tendency will be, well, what is it that, let me learn from you. This is what I have done. This is this is my expertise. This is what I'm good at. That's what you're good at. Let's learn from each other. How it goes back to your mindset, the way you see things. If you're in constant fight or flight mode, then you will experience insecurities. But there is a way of being in between, right? That in between space where you are you believe in yourself. You are clear about what you're good at, and that's how you contribute. This is your contribution to the world that person that might have a higher IQ or whatever it is that is higher than you might not have, that you can contribute. Each one of us are unique. Each one of us bring a different contribution to the world. And believing that and understanding that and working on that and giving, and one simple way to do that is to take a time, have your wellness journal and take a time to identify what is it that you have that is special to you, that you can bring to the world. And sometimes we're not even aware, Drew. We're not even aware of our spark because we don't give ourselves the time to go within and identify those areas in our lives that we have a spark that is unique to us. So sometimes just taking the time to identifying or confirming those sparks, as I call them, it will help your perspective to see, yes, of course, Drew Harris' artwork is much better than mine. There's no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean that mine is not amazing. Mine is not high quality.
But it's also, I think a career in the arts also involves so many other aspects. And I think one of the solutions here, as you're speaking, I'm beginning to realize that once we fill out, we have this wellness journal or these points that we write down and we burn into our brain. We know we're good at this. We're very good at this. And the other person that I am sort of, that I admire out there, the other artists that I admire, what are their strengths? So maybe that's another trick, to find out what their strengths are that we can then incorporate into what we do, because we have strengths here that they might not have, but they've got strengths that we don't have, and we can study them and we bring them and we add them to that list in our wellness book. And I think that's a brilliant way of, but we have to know who we are first.
Exactly. You have to take the time to understand your your strengths and your uniqueness, and why you make the art you make, why is it important, and why me as a buyer, I have to, I have to take, why should I be interested in your work? So you put yourself in a situation of the buyer. Why should a buyer be interested in your work? What is it that you're doing through your work that I want to have it in my house, or in my office or whatever. So, going back to those basic questions that maybe you went through it before you became an artist. So going to that inner reflection and understanding your why, that will give you, it will get the conversation started. Your inner conversation.
I think that is something that's a good piece of advice that can be taken, throughout our careers, because we're not always just, if you're 22 and you're feeling this imposter and you've done the work with you, Dr. Yanina, you listed down the very good things about you and you're confident. But when you're 32 and 42 and 52, you're going to have different, confidences.
Yes,
the game changes, right? For you as you go through your career. So this is something I always say to younger artists. One of the key things, which I don't really do myself as much as I should, is the simple journal book.
Yes.
And to have this throughout your career, throughout your life, make it a habit of having books around you all the time. Something that you are going to care for and keep for the rest of your life, because this is really this is a journey. So you can look back into that first journal or sketchbook or whichever. You can see the points that you were struggling with, and when you're 10 years later, you look back on that, you think, I've achieved what I was worried about in that, because I had confidence, because I was able to identify who I am and my strengths. So it's taken me to this, but now I need new strengths. So now it's come back into the book and start rewriting your strengths.
Right. Because it changes, and your why might even change. Your why might even change. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that I talk about in chapter 6 in our book, as you brought up, is the whole idea of comparisons. And there's, when you compare yourself to others, well, of course, that's when those imposter beliefs are going to get stronger, and that inner critic inside your head is going to be louder, telling you, warning you of all these different things that can happen. So you're opening the doors to inner criticism. You're opening the door to self-doubt. You're opening so many negative doors when you compare yourself to others, which is a tendency that happens. There's two ways of
comparing. Do you
think
it's more, sorry to interject, I'll just I ask when I have the thought, we're talking about things like social media right now. Do you find that this imposter thing is just so much more rampant?
Oh, yes.
Now, of course, with all our social media platforms.
Because you're so easily exposed to what other artists are doing, that it's easy to fall into that victimization, right? Drew is doing well because, he has the right contacts, or maybe, and then you start making all these assumptions about that other person on the other side. That you have no idea what they have gone through to be where they are. And you make all these assumptions that life is easier for him because of his looks, life is easier for him because of whatever, and then you start comparing yourself to this person. And when you compare yourself to others, what you're opening the doors to is, as I said, self-doubt, self-destruction, lack of motivation, and victimization. Right. And there's other ways. I mean, there have been circumstances in which you compare yourself to others, not necessarily because of jealousy, but because of admiration. And that's a way of doing it that is not as harmful as comparing yourself in a more having jealousy and envy towards that person.
But you just mentioned victim mentality.
Yes.
This is something I'd love to talk to you about, because I think that this is a really big part of our lives now as artists, in all sorts of fields. But in the arts, it's rather pronounced.
Right, right. But what I wanted to get to this is what you were saying, the whole thing about the journal, that the best way, if you want to grow as a person and as an artist, one of another tip, and if you want to really knock out that imposter belief, is the whole idea of comparing yourself to yourself. And one way that I teach artists to do that is exactly what you're talking about, the whole idea of journaling. And a strategy that I teach in the book, and I go deeper in the book into this strategy, is the whole idea of writing, just write a paragraph that describes where you are in your art career right now, today. So answer the question, where am I in my art career right now? And write a paragraph about that, describing that, a paragraph or two, but write it down. Don't only think about it, but you have to write it down so that you can use that for comparison purposes. Then I want you to write another paragraph about describing where you want to be, say 6 to 1 years from now. Exactly. Yeah. Be bold and courageous and brave, right? Where you want your art career to be a year from now.
Yeah.
And a year from now,
even things like vision boards to accompany your writing is something to have it on your
you have it in
wall,
your journal,
of your house. You've got a dream house that you want to build.
Exactly.
Put it there, and eventually you will get to that. Right?
Yes.
Well, I'm looking here at your book, and these are some of the questions, of course.
Yes.
And there we, of course, have the book. And I must say, the questions really do get you looking inward and going deeper. If you do them correctly and you're honest with yourself, you can find that by the time you finish these questions, and they're just a few good questions here in each chapter, you really do get to the bottom of who you are. And when you're at the bottom, there's nowhere more to go but up.
Right.
You can start climbing out of that, right?
Exactly.
So, and I think these questions are fantastic.
Thank you.
And they're so simple. They're simple. We don't think about it because we want the bigger, more intellectual questions being asked. And these things, and I look here and I say, just write down 2 recent small wins. That's, you think, I actually haven't thought about that. So I'll write them down.
Right.
Fantastic.
And when you do exercises like that, like write 2 recent small wins, how would you feel about it once you remember and write it down? Immediately, it's a boost of confidence because little things, we tend to take for granted the little things we do that take us to the bigger things. But then if you look back in retrospective, if you didn't do those little things, you wouldn't be able to achieve the bigger things. And without the little wins, you cannot achieve the big win. And that's why it's so important that we take the time to honor and acknowledge our little wins, so that that's more like the little spark that is going to get you going to the next one and to the next one. And you start looking back and see the growth you're making. That's the thing. We don't take the time to look back and make the or lack of growth. Right.
Or lack of growth, of course. Yeah. Well, the question I might have for you today, I mean, you and Sergio are meeting and following a lot of artists, and a lot of artists are following you in the group, outside the group. You're getting a lot of the picture of the global art market and artists and how they're working today. One of the questions I've always had was, and you've really answered it already in a way, but the idea that we brought social media. Social media is just so new. And there's good social media and good ways of using social media. Such as what Sergio teaches, all the marketing. He's talking about getting you out there, building your confidence, building it right. But we tend to, when we're not building ourselves, we tend to look at others, and we can drive ourselves, into the ground by just endlessly scrolling through and thinking, I'm just not getting those shows. I'm just not getting this yet. So these kind of the questions that you're asking in the book, and we're talking about today, these are the important things to have front and center all the time in your journal. Because if you have it there and it's always visible to you, you can go through social media, you can scroll through all of the fabulous art out there and still come away at the end of the day feeling that I'm worthy. I am worthy. I'm as good as them. I can win these awards. I can get into these galleries. It's just going to take time and effort, but I'm worthy of it. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's understanding, because it goes the other way around. Then there's also sometimes artists that do that. They scroll and scroll, and it's the opposite. They feel that they're not good enough, and then they feel
no. It's I mean, from the people I talk to, social media has become kind of one of these things that you go to in hopes of finding happiness, and it's not it's not doing that at the moment.
At the moment. And what I would say to those is the whole idea of one of the reasons why these other artists are getting the shows and they're getting the awards is because they're not scrolling their social media looking at what you're doing.
Exactly.
They're using their time, energy, and effort to grow their own art career, and they are not focused on other people's art career. They're not looking at other people's art career. They're investing the time that they have, the energy and the effort, the mental energy and everything to grow their art career. They're not scrolling. They're not seeing other people's posts. They're focusing on their own art career. And
well, here is a good example of this. You know, how many times have we all done it as artists? Sat down, liked certain artists that we see each day that are showing, you know, magnificent work or magnificent success, new gallery openings, new work, new studio images, new successes, new wins, and we're liking them all. But when we go through our own social media, we don't see them liking us. They don't put the little, you know, thumbs up for us. Why? Because they're the ones working. We're following them. They're not following us.
Right.
And that's a good lesson.
Right.
It's exactly right. You know, if you want to be recognized by your peers, you've got to be working like your peers and not scrolling for the next biggest idea or the next cool thing. Right. You are already cool. You're already at the next thing, but you have, in order to be the next thing, you have to take the next step.
Right.
And that is working.
Right. And focus on
and confidence.
Right. And focus on either finding opportunities or creating your own opportunities.
Right.
Because you cannot expect that things are going to fall from heaven. Yeah. I mean, not to some, once in a while it happens, but it's not the norm. So you cannot, since you're not expecting that, you have to work towards that. And there will be, and sometimes you just have to create your own. And that's something that I admire about my husband, Sergio, that he is constantly creating his own opportunities. He doesn't believe it. He's not going to sit down and wait for there's something to fall out of the sky, but rather he is very good at creating his own opportunities. And it's extremely active in social media because it's all about giving and teaching and sharing. But at the same time, he finds that balance between like, okay, I'm going to be in social media sharing, but I also have to devote specific time to grow my own art career as well.
Let me interject here. And this is a great turning point in this conversation because I wanted to talk about this because it's part and parcel of that, taking us from maybe a bit of a depressed state or a bit of anxiety or anxiousness or depression, the imposter syndrome or isolation that we find ourselves in. The world has isolated a lot more in the last 10 years due to social media. We don't have to go out. We don't have to meet people.
Right.
But actually, one of the things that I learned, and I am a classic case of being isolated. I live in a foreign country. I am a foreigner in a foreign country. And in order for me to have met Sergio and yourself and the many people that I've now met, I had to step outside that and find a group. And it's really important to find this community because if your immediate community around you is not supporting you and you're not engaged with them and they're not engaged with themselves, Everybody's on their social media feeds. It's doing you no good. So look out to the community. There are communities out there based on what you and Sergio do. For example, I went to Sergio quite out of a whim. A lot of people know this story. Just out of the whim. One day, my wife had said, "Why don't you just go onto the internet?" And I wasn't a big internet guy. I didn't do watching TikTok or watching YouTube. And I clicked on YouTube. I think I just wrote in, artist community or something. And his video came up and I watched it and it was immediate. I went, I think I need to talk to that man. And from that point, my life changed. But I had to take that first step.
Right.
Because I was lacking confidence. I was lacking confidence in a market that I had here and around the world. And I needed a community. And I found that community. And what it's done is now it's led me to having a conversation with you and many conversations with Sergio on an almost daily basis. And with this group, this large group at the Artist Next Level. And, from every walk of life and every part of the world. And this was finally, I just had to say I had to do it. I had to go, and here's what I'm confident about. Right. And here's what I can learn from you guys. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And understanding that is the key to, but you have to go out and do it. You have to get out and present yourself.
And it's important that you surround yourself with people that are at your level, and I will say higher than you, because that's how you learn from others when they know more than you, and be okay with that. Understanding that it's a privilege to be around people that are at a higher level than you are. And it is a step for growth. And being by yourself is when you are isolated, that's when that inner critic starts having a feast on you, right? And that's why it's important that you surround yourself with an inner circle, a support system, a network of people, so that you can learn from each other. It can be a two-way kind of relationship where you give and you receive, right? And that's one of the main pillars of the Art Next Level program. The whole idea that we believe that in order for you to grow, and it's important that you surround yourself with other professional artists that are there to grow their art career, not to complain about the world, not to complain about scarcity, not to be stuck in the hole, but rather move up. And that's something that we pride ourselves in the Art Next Level program, that we are
it's been fantastic.
Allowing these conversations to take place and artists to help one another to grow and to share ideas, to support each other. That is a very, I'm glad that you brought that up. That is an important component in your art career, to surround yourself with the right people. And and grow that network. And if that's something that you are liking of, if you are watching us or listening to us, if this is something that you are liking of, we invite you to take a look at the Art Next Level program. And we will put our link on the below the video or in the podcast. We will add the link somewhere. And also, if this is something that you're struggling with, the imposter beliefs, or your tendency to compare yourself to others, and that's affecting you at many levels, we also invite you to take a look at to get a copy of our book, Crush, Self Sabotage, and Live Fully. You can get it in Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, or your local library. Your local bookstore. You can order it through a local bookstore as well. Take the necessary steps to get out of that paralysis. But it's and sometimes it's very difficult when you are there and you are in the paralysis, or perhaps experiencing depression or anxiety. It's very difficult. Let's acknowledge that it's very difficult to take that step, especially if you're on your own. That's why it's so important that you surround yourself with the right people.
Let me finish up here on this conference. It's a conversation that could have gone. We could go on for hours, and we will go on for hours.
We'll have another episode.
We can talk at length. The many the many chapters that you have, living fully, so getting organized, making things happen, rewiring my mind through personal affirmations, igniting my inner fuel, scooping out my mindset blocks. And I'll tell you something about this book. And this is what I find. Now, I'm a big reader, and there is a very small market that you have tapped into right here. You've tapped into a large market with a very unique book. And one of the reasons I believe this, you are really specifically talking artists, the art careers. You're not talking about business people. You're not talking in general terms. You are really focused in on the artists. We are a different breed as artists. And what the beautiful thing about this book is that you hear from Sergio as a sort of follow-up to all of your chapters that you have written in your professional capacity. He gives sort of the artist impression or the follow-up to each of the chapters. And those are so amazing to read. The balance you have done on both your sides has produced a book of uniqueness. And I tell you, there are a few books out there that really specifically deal with this. There are a lot of fun books. We can mention lots of them. Everybody's got them on their bookshelves. But is it doing you good in your career?
Yeah.
Probably not. But this one sure has. And I know all the people that have purchased this and used this book and joined you or the Art Next Level program, they benefited from all of the information that's inside here. On that note, one of the things that I'm really excited to share with everybody here, Dr. Yanina, Sergio, and myself, we offer coaching program at the Artist Next Level program.
Yes.
And it's been really fantastic because we have three elements. We have the marketing, Sergio. Yeah. We have the wellness, health and wellness and inner self with you, Dr. Yanina. Right. And we have the studio practice, all the stuff, the painting, the works, the materials, and that's with me.
Correct.
And this is a really exciting part of this organization as well. And if you're interested in one-on-one sessions with either one of us, you can get that information at the Artist Next Level program. It's theartistnextlevel.com.
Correct.
The website. Yeah, and you can get all the information there. But I really strongly recommend that you join the group, and it is a community, and it's a big community, and we have a lot of fun. And buy the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll give you the last word.
No, absolutely. Again, we have to take action. If we want to grow, if we want to succeed, we have to take action. And even if it's a little step, and especially to those that are really struggling, just take one extra step. Maybe get a copy of the book so you can work through those beliefs, that belief system that is preventing you from growing your art career. Or maybe you want one-on-one coaching. Either with me, you, or Sergio, to get started, to get you sparked, to get that inner spark again. Or you can, or maybe you're ready to join the program where we have artists from all over the world. We're giving you three options that are very personalized to you that you can take. But you have to press that button. You have to turn on that computer. You have to go into the website and decide and do that. So we encourage you. We invite you to take that little step. I gave you three little steps, and
you have to be open and willing. Yeah, you have to be open and willing to admit, you might need some help in areas. Yeah. I know I did, and look where we are today. It's changed my life, and I did, and I had a very long and illustrious career, and I realized I didn't have all the answers, so I went to you, and we are well on our way.
Wonderful.
So it's been wonderful speaking with you.
Yeah,
and
thank you
we've only just touched on chapter 6, and of course there are many more chapters in the book. So we are going to set up another chapter meeting, and we are going to discuss this entire book. and you're going to get the whole, the general discussion about the book, and that'll encourage you to go there and get it. All right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yanina. We will see you at theartistnextlevel.com, and we will see you shortly.
But wait, before you leave this video, if you are an artist who wants to grow your art career and wants to achieve greater success, make sure you check out the Art Next Level program. You will find a link under this video. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the next video that we have recommended just for you.